It is May 20th, 2017, 2:25 a.m. This video I think is going to be a little bit longer than most because I'm going to read you a story that I wrote a while ago. But I finished, this is the fourth draft, but it's not really complete, but I want to read it to you. It's called Leave Taking. When Andy's father left, he packed his pocket knife with his razor, his baseball glove with his toolkit, and, without a word, slid into his jacket and stepped out. Andy was too young to remember that day. Like the rainy autumn after a warm summer, his father's absence became a familiar state as the years went by. Andy grew to love the rain. His mother would nag at him whenever the skies were gray, which was often, to carry an umbrella, but he would not listen. It hung from his backpack unopened as he marched to school, the hood of his jacket down so he could feel the rain pouring through his hair and onto his face. A chuckle of pride grew within as the other kids ran for cover, umbrellas upraised, their parents rushing them into the school building before they could get soaked. Where others felt fear under the looming shadow of the clouds, he felt adventure. Stomping his boots in the gathering rainwater, he ran forward and leaped into the middle of the largest puddle around, swinging his arms as he spun, droplets flying where he kicked. He paused to catch his breath and felt a tinge of loneliness, but the bell rang and he continued into the school. Sitting in class, his mind wandered as the teacher chided one of his classmates. Looking out the window, the rain had stopped, but the clouds remained. Beyond the schoolyard was a wood, which grew against a fence. Andy dreamed of a forest filled with creatures. He dreamed of conquest and adventure, beyond anything read in a book or seen on the screen. He wasn't always the hero in his story, but he would always fight for righteousness with the virtues imbued in his blade. The bell rang, pulling Andy out of his imminent victory. Finding it was lunch break, Andy happily joined the other children through the doors to play outside. Andy ate his lunch on a bench to the side as he watched the other children play. A large group of them had a game of baseball going. Andy hated baseball. He could not catch when thrown to, and when throwing, his ball would hit the ground before it reached the glove. The other children would jeer at his incompetence. His pride would keep him playing, but he would only make a bigger fool of himself. Not wanting to take the risk, he stayed at his bench, dreaming. Finishing his lunch, he walked over to the fence borderlining the yard. It was only a few feet higher than his head, so he climbed over with little difficulty. He landed in a crouch, looking back to make sure no one had seen him. Satisfied, he plunged into the wooded depths. Now this was a game. Thrilled, Andy hiked through the trees, following a thin dirt path. Finding a stick worthy of his imagination, he swung at bushes, conquering cruel bandits, soulless monsters, and tyrannical teachers. He flinched when droplets hit his face. Andy laughed. It was starting to rain again. He battled on, slaying many evils with his blade, a large grin on his face. Only, when his sword snapped against a rock, did he come back to himself and realize it had gotten dark. Shivering, he turned around and started to make his way back to the way he came. He followed the path until it split into two directions. Choosing one, he plodded on, his confidence ebbing away with the daylight. Soon enough, the path disappeared in the darkness, and what little he could see was blurred by the rain in his eyes. Lightning flashed. He found himself ripping through bushes. Thorn vines clawed at his arms, pulling his shirt. He fought, wishing his sword hadn't snapped so he could hack his way through the brambles. He pulled through, starting to feel scared, his imagination running wild with the ideas of never seeing daylight again. Exhausted, he began to cry, his sobs coming out in short bursts. Curling into a defensive ball, he felt the cold rain seep through his clothes and into his skin, violating his safety and comfort with its freezing touch. His sobs subsided when he saw a beam of light pierce the darkness. It swung to and fro, searching. He hoped for him. He felt the warmth of relief when the beam washed over his face. Hearing his mother cry out to him and saw her silhouette rushing toward him. Coming to his side, she pulled off her jacket and wrapped it around him as she picked him up and held him close. Feeling safe, he fell asleep in her arms as she carried him back home.